Good evening. Myself, Dr. Vinod Kaushik from IIP Digital Media Team. I will be host for today's webinar on IIP General Committee with our moderator, editor of the IIP Journal, Dr. Suvarna Ganvi. I just welcome her. Being organized by this committee, the Indian Association of Physiotherapists is the oldest and the largest association representing physiotherapists in India since 1955. The IAP digital media team consists of a group of physios who handle Zoom platform, webinar live streaming, and IAP profiles on social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Follow IAP profiles on these social media to receive notification for our events such as webinars, workshops, CMEs, conference, health camps, blood donation drive, and to know about recent updates on physiotherapy. Subscribe to IAP YouTube channel for notification of our live webinars. In playlist section of this channel, webinars are segregated into various folders on the topic like orthopedics, neurology, sports and fitness, pediatrics, cardiopulmonary, women's health, research, cancer, rehab, etc. for easy access. The social media link will be shared in the chat shortly. I will just hand over to today the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vinod Kaushik. And I welcome all the participants on the behalf of Journal of Indian Association of Physiotherapists in the capacity of Editor-in-Chief. And I have my team with me who is more than willing to share their expertise related to reviewers training. With the team incepted in January 2025, this particular editorial board started working towards improving the quality of the journal. And under the guidance of our IAP president, Dr. Sanjeev Jha sir, and with the support of Dr. Ruchi Varshne madam, national head IAPWC, we are committed to improve the standard of our journal, which is one of the oldest journal in the field of physiotherapy. And I'm glad that we had webinar in the last week for the authors training in the field of writing manuscript. And this is our second webinar for the reviewers of our journal. And my team is with me, who is looking forward to have an interactive session with us, with you all. So without wasting much time, I request the first speaker, Dr. Vivek Ramanandi, to start with the presentation. Dr. Vivek is the Associate Professor and Head Department of Neurophysiotherapy, Neurological Physiotherapy at SPB College of Physiotherapy, Surat, Gujarat. He will be talking about the anatomy of the manuscript. So I request Dr. Vivek to start with your session.
Good evening and thank you, Dr. Suvarna ma'am, for a very brief and important introduction to our session today. As you have already mentioned that this is an introductory guidance webinar for the reviewers who are continuously supporting us and our journal as well as other physiotherapy journals who try and work to keep the scientific community's work up to the mark. This is not going to be a much formal session. We are going to cover three major topics. I will be starting with basic anatomy of the research paper. My team members, Dr. Supreet ma'am and Dr. Manisha ma'am, will be covering the more or wider aspects of reviewing. We know it is the official journal of our Indian Association of Physiotherapists, and many of you must have contributed by reviewing or publishing in this journal. Recent edition of recent volume of our journal has editorial has been focusing on formal peer review training, how and why it is important, and what are the steps which are supposed to be taken. And in line of that only, we have started. We have been working on this important aspect. Uh, I'll be trying to make the structure of research paper easier to understand using the analogy of human body. Objective of the session is that we understand the structure and function of research components as a cohesive system using the analogy of human body. We know common components of research paper. These are title followed by abstract, and then the main text will include introduction or background, methods, results, discussion, conclusion, references, and then there will be other technical and ethical aspects which are supposed to be taken care of while preparing and evaluating any manuscript for publishing. As everyone can see, title, abstract, and introduction are the initial parts where title of the article, any manuscript, is supposed to be working as the face, which is the first point of contact for everyone who is going to read. It has to be clear, and concise, and it creates first impressions. So as a reviewer, we are supposed to focus on clarity, conciseness of the title of the article, as well as what kind of first impression it is making that we are supposed to evaluate. Face value of the article is represented by the title. Heart of the abstract, heart of the manuscript is going to be the abstract. It represents core summary of research and should contain questions which are the driving force behind the research work, methods and findings in brief. It is a quick assessment tool. Overall evaluation of manuscript should be done on primarily prima facie on basis of the abstract. That is why it is supposed to be considered as the heart of the manuscript. Now we see introduction. It is the voice of our manuscript. It articulates the problem of the main manuscript, the research problem for which the study has been conducted. It should provide clear context and background for the study which is supposed to be published, and it should ideally include statement about the objectives and why this study is significant and why it is supposed to be published for our journal. Now, when we look at the framework of body of a manuscript, methodology is the main component which overall provides the body's framework of the manuscript. Study design is the skeleton work, the skeleton frame of the article or manuscript. It provides structural frame and it outlines overall research approach which has been covered by the researchers, which have the research which has been done is supposed to be put in a framework which is supposed to be easily understood by the researchers, because as we all know, a good research is supposed to be replicable. So it ensures research validity in terms of if the research methods are being described, are being mentioned properly in the way it is supposed to be, it ensures validity of any kind of research which is supposed to be published. Then second major component of the body's framework, that is how the data was collected. It is supposed to be considered as the nerves because they are gathering the informations. They are the sensory receptors, receiving ends of the methods which are being used, and at the end of that the sensory informations are received. It gathers information. It includes various methods. It can be a survey, it can be interviews, it can be observations. There are multiple methods through which the data collection is done. Now, as we all know, it has to be reliable and it is supposed to be consistent with the background and the methods which has been mentioned. The data collection is supposed to be consistent with the methods which are applied. Then third component of the framework of the manuscript body are the muscles. They process collected information. As our muscles process the information gathered and provided by the nerves, the same thing is their data analysis. It processes the information which is collected through the manuscript methods. It is supposed to mention statistical or other qualitative methods how the data analysis was conducted, and it should interpret the findings in a systematic manner. Then results and findings are the sensory systems for any kind of manuscript. They are the eyes and ears. Which are the visual and auditory elements of manuscript, which are represented by the figures and tables. Figures we usually use during the flow chart making while presenting the methods or procedures component, and during the results representation. So we use figures, graphs, and tables, which are the visual component. They are supposed to represent data very clearly. They are supposed to be brief. They are not supposed to be multiple tables and multiple graphs, which are duplicating the information which has already been provided in text. They are supposed to illustrate the trends and patterns, which are the findings which have been gathered during the data collection. They are supposed to illustrate it clearly. So they are the visual elements of any kind of manuscript. Now, when we come to the results and findings, analysis of components, statistical analysis and qualitative findings, both are considered to be very important. We can consider statistical analysis part as the brain of the results and findings of the manuscript. Significance testing is usually considered a standard parameter. We always go for p-value measurement, and then on basis of that we test significance. Now there are other important statistical tests, statistical methods, which are equally or more important as compared to significance testing. So in which way the data interpretation has been done, that is dependent upon the analysis which is been applied, test which has been selected. So it is supposed to be clearly mentioned, clearly described where the data has been, how it is been analyzed. Second major aspect is the qualitative findings, which we can see that is skin. So any kind of qualitative findings during any kind of manuscript evaluation, they are supposed to be full of rich descriptions of the procedures, descriptions of the hurdles which have been faced by the research, a description of any kind of steps or measures taken to overcome the hurdles, how the research process was conducted in detail, they are supposed to be mentioned. Also, the results are supposed to be described in details. All the participants' perspectives during conduction of a survey or during the interview methods, or all the perspectives are supposed to be unbiasedly reported. So qualitative findings are supposed to be considered as the skin, which always provide all kind of data, all kind of inputs in a very descriptive manner. Now, if we talk about the technical concepts, technical aspects of the manuscripts, they found the DNA of the research. When we say, if we compare the citations of any manuscript are the genes, they acknowledge the sources from where the data has been, the information has been gathered. So source acknowledgement is very important in text and after the text where the references have been enlisted. It should help identify the real source of the knowledge, and it helps prevent any kind of plagiarism. We know there are different types of plagiarism, and as a reviewer, it is our moral duty to try and make it sure that any kind of plagiarism is not within that particular manuscript which we are evaluating. When we consider the chromosomes, they are the references. It should compile all the sources in a full list. It has supposed to be formatted as per the style guide. We know there is a particular guide which has been described in the author guidelines on our website. So it is supposed to be formatted as per the style guide, and the formatted style guide has to be implemented throughout the list. We are supposed to make sure if the references are not as per the style guide. Appendices, usually when the author agrees to appendize any kind of additional supplementary material. It may be image, it may be raw data, it may be tables and graphs and additional text measures describing the outcomes or procedures. We are considering them as an extra limbs. They are the extra limbs which support the additional data, which provides the additional data and will be useful for future in the research studies which are going to be which are going to be conducted by the next generation researchers. So they provide additional data as well as procedures, and they support the documentation. Whenever there is an additional supplementary material attached to any kind of manuscript, we are supposed to make sure that any supplementary material data is in alignment, is in coherence with the actual manuscript data or not. If the tables and the descriptive content provided in the supplementary material is in line with the original manuscript or not. So key takeaway from this particular section of our today's webinar is that a research paper usually functions as a holistic system like a body works, where each session builds upon the previous one. So when we try to write down background and introduction, we are trying to build a base for the methods section, and on basis of methods we are supposed to provide the data analysis, result discussion, and conclusion sections. So as a reviewer, we are supposed to make sure the story is told in a proper way. The clarity, second point is that the clarity and strength of first part, which initial part, is usually directly influencing the understanding and impact of the subsequent parts. So as I said, story has to be told in an appropriate way. Just organs in the as the organs of our body, they work in a synchronization, in a coordinated manner. The sections of all the research papers, subsections, sections, they are supposed to be aligned, and they should present a unified and a logical argument based upon the scientific rationale. Effective communication of any kind of research finding, they rely on the continuous seamless integration and flow between the heading, that is title, abstract, introduction or background, methods, results, and technical elements. So all the aspects of any manuscript, we are supposed to make sure as a reviewer that they are in coherence with each other. In subsequent storytelling has to be there. Thank you. This is the end of my session. We'll be covering question answer session later on. So presently, I would like to invite Dr. Supreet ma'am to continue with critical appraisal section of our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So a very good evening to all of you. So today I'll be deliberating on the topic of critical appraisal of manuscript. So critical appraisal of manuscript is a vital step in the scientific publication process because it acts as a quality control mechanism, ensuring that only scientifically sound, ethically justified, and clearly communicated research enters the body of academic literature. So the objectives of this session will be an introduction to critical appraisal. Then what are the objectives of critical appraisal? How to carry out a critical appraisal. Now, what are the common pitfalls in manuscripts and what are the common tools for appraisal of manuscript? So there are certain misconceptions about the articles that have been published, that if an article has been published in a scientific journal, it must be correct. But the truth is that the article should undergo peer review, and critical appraisal is essential to avoid misinterpretation of the findings. And some journals, especially the predatory journals, they accept payment from authors and publish papers regardless of quality. So a paper that has been published does not ensure the quality of the paper. That's why there is need of critical appraisal. So the critical appraisal is a process of carefully and systematically analyzing a research paper in order to judge its trustworthiness, relevance, and applicability. And it is essential for evidence-based practice, and it helps distinguish valid evidence from opinion or bias. Now, what are the objectives of critical appraisal? So, a critical appraisal of manuscript, it ensures scientific rigor. Like we have already discussed, that it checks that whether the study design, methods, analysis, they are appropriate, they are valid, they are reproducible. It helps us to identify the errors and bias in our manuscript. That is, it helps identify any methodological flaws or data inconsistencies, or any flaws related to how sample size was calculated or how sampling was done. Then it evaluates relevance and applicability of the research that has been done. So in terms of applicability, we can say that it helps us analyze the generalizability of the findings of the research. Then a critical appraisal of manuscript prevents misinformation from a research. For example, if there is a poor quality research that has been published, it can mislead practitioners, it can harm patients, and it can waste resources. And our critically appraised manuscript supports evidence-based practice, and it helps improves manuscript quality, and thus it helps us to maintain a journal's standards and reputation. Now, what are the steps for critical appraisal? So, first of all, you need to obtain a full text of manuscript. So, simply reading the abstract of the manuscript does not suffice the purpose. So, you should read the whole manuscript before taking any decision about the manuscript. And as Vivek sir has already discussed, so talking about the IMRAD format of the manuscript, we need to look through the various sections of the manuscript and critically appraise it. So we'll see step by step. So the first thing to analyze in the introduction section is that, is the study question relevant? Now, whether the topic is important clinically, whether the objectives of the topic have been stated out clearly, is the research question clear, does the research adds to what is already known about the subject, or any new ideas or knowledge are developed on the basis of previous work. Then, what type of research question is being asked? So this is the most fundamental task of the critical appraisal, that is to identify the specific research question that an article addresses. And a well-developed research question usually identifies 4 components, that is abbreviated as PICO. That is, it identifies the population or participants. Then it tells you about the intervention or indicator. Then it gives an idea about the comparator or control, and what are the outcomes. Now, there are some common study designs that we critically appraise. As we all know that the systematic reviews of the RCTs, and the RCTs, that is the randomized controlled trials themselves, they are the level 1 evidence when we talk of hierarchy of evidence, followed by non-randomized controlled trials, followed by cohort studies, case control studies, cross-sectional studies, and then comes the case reports, and then it is followed by expert opinions and so on. So now, common study designs to appraise are the RCTs. RCTs are generally considered as a gold standard for evaluating interventions because they minimize bias through randomization and control groups. And systematic reviews also are a level 1 evidence, as they present a comprehensive synthesis of multiple primary studies, providing a broad view of evidence on a specific topic. Then cohort studies, they are the observational designs tracking groups over time to assess associations between exposure and outcomes, whereas in case control studies, these are retrospective and in which an outcome has already occurred, and we identify risk factors and association in these types of studies. Then there are cross-sectional studies which give you a snapshot of population characteristics at a single point in time, which is useful for collecting data related to prevalence and generating hypotheses. Then comes the qualitative research, which is in-depth exploration of human experiences, behaviors, and attitudes, generally done through focus group discussions, providing rich contextual understanding and insights. So then the next question is that whether the research design and methodology used in the study is appropriate for research question. For example, if your study talks about frequency of events, then observational study design should have been carried out rather than an RCT. Then we need to look for that, was the sample size calculated? Is the sample size calculation appropriate? What was the method of sampling that was utilized? Were ethical considerations being made? Whether the protocol was approved from institutional ethical committee? Whether trial registry with CTRI or Prospero was done or not? Then a very important thing to critically appraise is that did the study methods address the potential sources of bias? So bias may be related to chance or it may be inherent in the method of the study. For example, systematic biases, they arise from the way in which the study is conducted. Then selection bias, for example, unrepresentative samples have been collected or we have used convenience sampling. So this gives you a selection bias. Then measurement bias, if the unreliable or invalid methods of data collection have been used, they introduce measurement bias in the study. Then they are confounding variables which introduce bias into the study. Then there is a reporting bias in which there is selective disclosure of outcomes or there is manipulation of data leading to skewed conclusions, or there is publication bias in which there is tendency for only positive or significant findings to be published, creating an incomplete evidence base. So we need to look for these biases which are either inherent or they are attributed to chance. Then we need to look that was the study performed in line with the original protocol. So deviations in a planned protocol can be due to failure to recruit the planned number of participants, or maybe because of changes to inclusion or exclusion criteria, or maybe due to variation in treatment or interventions, maybe related to employed techniques or technologies, or maybe they are related to some changes in the duration of follow-up. Then we need to check that whether the study tests a stated hypothesis. So it is very essential to identify the hypothesis of the study prior to starting onset of the study, and we need to check that whether all data related to the study objectives have been reported and there is no omission of the data as such. Then we need to look for whether the statistical analysis were performed correctly. So all the articles should include a segment of methods that explains the tools used in statistical analysis and the rationale of using that tools. Then the analysis must account for the missed data or the patients or the subjects that have been lost in follow-up, and they should be clearly identified in the results section. The next thing that we need to look for is whether the data justifies the conclusions or not. Now, what happens is that in the discussion or discussion section, sometimes overemphasis is placed upon the statistically significant findings that may have two small differences that are of clinical value. This might dismiss the large and potentially important differences between non-statistically significant groups, or this may be introduced because the sample size was very small, and the study findings could not be generalized because of small sample size. Then we need to check that whether the author compare and contrast the findings with existing literature. And then are the interpretations justified by the results? And it's not only that the significant result should be presented, the non-significant results should also be taken into account. And then next thing we need to look for is that are there any conflicts of interest. So conflict of interest occurs when personal factors have potential to influence the potential roles or possibility. So generally, we look for a declaration or an open disclosure in the manuscript regarding the source of funding for the study. Conflict of interest could be financial, it could be potential, it could be because of for example, if I am the author of a study and I am the reviewer, then there is a personal conflict of interest, right? So if a potential conflict of interest is present, assess how the conflict was managed. And journals routinely require authors to declare a potential conflict of interest whenever they submit an article. Then we come to the reference section. So when we come to the reference section, we need to look for the relevance of the references. That is, whether they are directly related to the topic or the argument, and do they support the key points that have been highlighted. Now, what is the quality and source of references? Generally, references from reputable journals should be preferred. Then what are the timelines? So 50 to 70% of the references that have been reported should be from the last 5 to 10 years, and older references are acceptable for classical theories or any historical context. Then talking about diversity and balance. Now, is there a balance of viewpoint? Does the manuscript avoid cherry picking of the supportive studies? Are the both supporting and contradictory evidence cited wherever it is required? Then proper usage and integration. This means that the references have been correctly cited according to the conditions that, or according to the guidelines that have been laid by the journal. Then type of studies that have been referenced. For example, are the primary sources, that is the original research, preferred over the secondary sources? Then is consistency and formatting of the references. Now, are the references consistently formatted as per the journal's requirement or not, and whether the in-text references matches the reference list at the end? So these were some basic points that need to be looked for while appraising a manuscript, and there are some common tools or checklists that are that exist for appraisal of a manuscript. For example, if we talk of RCTs, we have CASP. CASP is Critical Appraisal Scale Program that offers tools or structured checklists for various study designs. So when we talk of these tools, so we have concert guidelines. Most of us are familiar with this, that is Consolidated Standards of Reporting Styles. Now, it is a comprehensive tool developed to improve the reporting quality of RCTs. So use of a checklist, it ensures transparency, completeness, and clarity of how trials are conducted and analyzed. Ideally, whenever we plan to start an RCT, we should have this checklist in hand, and we should make it a point that all the points given in the checklist have been covered. Similarly, while reviewing a manuscript, we should see that the manuscript, we should check that the manuscript adheres to the reported guidelines. So this is a sample of consort checklist. Similarly, for reviewing systematic reviews, we have CASP checklist, we have AMSTER, that is assessment tool for appraisal of systematic reviews. Prisma checklist is, I think, one of the favorite checklists we use whenever we are talking about the systematic reviews. So this is a Prisma checklist, which is a widely accepted tool to ensure transparency and completeness in reporting systematic reviews and meta-analysis. Then for observational studies, so there is a high risk of selection bias and confounding variables in case of observational studies. So the most preferred checklist is the STRO guidelines, and these are the STRO guidelines. So STRO guidelines, now there are 22 items which are grouped into 6 sections. Similarly, we have Newcastle-Ottawa scale, which is used to assess the quality of cohort studies and the case control studies. Then we have the QADA scale. Now QADA scale, QADAS 2 is for checklist used for quality assessment of diagnostic accuracy studies. So it has 4 domains, that is patient selection, index test, reference, reference standard, and flow and timing. So we need to refer to this checklist if we are working upon the diagnostic accuracy studies. Then next in line is the COREC, that is Consolidated Criteria for Reporting Qualitative Tool. So this is a 32 item checklist if we intend to carry out a interview or focus group discussion. Then comes the Consolidated Health Economic Evaluation Reporting Standards, that is the CHEERS checklist. Now, this is a reporting guideline which is developed to improve the transparency, completeness, and consistency of reporting health economic evaluations such as cost effectiveness, cost utility, and cost benefit analysis. Then last but not the least is the AGREE tool, that is appraisal of guidelines for research and evaluation. Now, this particular checklist is used to assess the quality, methodological rigor, and transparency in development of the clinical practice guidelines, and it has 6 domains which need to be taken care of. So these were some of the tools and checklists we can refer to whenever we want to critically appraise the manuscript. So the key takeaways from this session is that critical appraisal of our research or manuscript is very necessary to understand the credibility of the research article. It helps us evaluate the bias, validity, reliability, and ethical conduct of the study. Now, it helps us differentiate between the statistical significance and clinical relevance. It helps us recognize the importance of study design, sampling, and data analysis. And it helps us apply critical thinking to determine if results can be trusted and used. So that's all with critical appraisal of manuscript. Our next session on how to write a review will be conducted by Professor Manisha Rathi.
Thank you, Dr. Suprit. Yeah. So, after understanding the critical appraisal in detail, I would like to just say about how to write a review. So, the role of reviewer is very important when you're talking about the publication. So, they play a very vital role in high quality of manuscript evaluation process. They preserve the integrity of scientific records. So, they are very critical in the whole publication process. So they help the editor to decide whether the article is up to the mark, whether it can be publishing or it can be of the high standard quality, or any suggestions, any modifications are needed, or it is not worth of publishing. They also aid the author to improve the manuscript. Like sometimes it happens that author is not aware about certain small modifications which are needed in the manuscript. So here the reviewer plays a very important role in just modifications of certain manuscript part, and it will improve the quality of that publication. So reviewer will be giving an overall opinion about the article, and the general observation of the article is very essential, because if the reviewer is pointing out any observation which is very important to save out publications, or it can be important for modifications, then it will make the whole manuscript a more meaningful. Then comments, whatever comments a reviewer would like to say, they should be courteous and constructive. Like reviewer should be very crispy, and their comments should be very critical in saying whether what exactly the message would like to pass on to the author and to the editor. And they should not also include any ad hominem remarks or the personal details, personal remarks they should not be doing. So if I would like to just say, if whoever is attending this seminar, this webinar, if you have not joined as a reviewer, you just go to the site of Journal of Indian Association of Physiotherapists and you can see join as a reviewer there, and just click and join, put the personal details over there, your profile you can create and join as a reviewer. This will help in aiding the quality of the Journal of Indian Association of Physiotherapists. Even if you feel any of your colleague or friends who are capable of putting being a good reviewer, you can also inform them about this. So now when you are going ahead with the reviewing process, how you're going to begin the reviewing process. First and very important thing, as soon as you get any article for the review, you must find out that article, that the main core subject of that article is of your expertise or not. If you feel yes, you can give justice to the article, you can critically appraise this article, then only you accept, which can provide a high quality review. Then if any conflict of interest is there, if you know that this article is of your known person or known from your institute, or this article is from a person whom you feel that this article may not be a this person may not publish properly, so or any kind of conflict of interest is you feel, then you immediately report it to the editor that there can be a conflict of interest, so this article cannot be reviewed by yourself. If you have sufficient time, is then only you accept it, because time is very important factor. You cannot just see the abstract and say that this article is okay for publishing, or it is suitable or it is not suitable. You need to critically appraise, as you have seen, and Dr. Jasprit has explained you how to critically appraise the article. So complete thoroughly reading needs some amount of time as well as some certain skills. So that's why you feel, if you find that you have sufficient time, definitely you accept the article at the earliest and give that much period of time for the proper reviewing process. Then you need to know what exactly mean by reviewing of an article and what is the peer review process. Many journal has their own reviewing process, so you need to find out what the reviewing process of Journal of Indian Association of Physiotherapists says, and that process you must be knowing, and you must be familiar with the guidelines of this Journal of IAP. If you are not aware about the guidelines, you are not aware about the scope of this journal, you may mislead the article, the reviewing process, and that may lead to a um, publication of an article which is not up to the mark. So that's why you should be knowing the guidelines. These guidelines are there on the website and under the authors column, so you can download these guidelines as well. So how to manage the review process? Once you accept, you will get an article, you download the article completely, as well as you download the guidelines or checklist for the review of the study designs. Then treat this as a confidential document. Whenever you are getting that article, do not share that article with anyone. You have to keep it as confidential as you can, and do not share this article on any AI tool. Sometimes certain people have the habit of putting that whole article on any AI tool, and AI tool may assist in the review, but that is not necessary that these AI assisted technologies may be giving you correct, complete and unbiased conclusion. That's why it is very important critically thinking about that article, and the assessment what you are doing as per the guidelines should be done properly and should not be using any AI tool for the same. Then when you are structuring your review, what should be the process? The journal has specific format of the review that you can see on the guidelines of the author, and there will be review format also. So every journal has this format of review. So you should be aware about that format. Then be aware about what is the study design used in the article. You have seen that if whenever you read the abstract or methodology, you can see the study design. And down, you should be knowing what should be the checklist used for that particular study design. Just now, Dr. Jasprit has already Suprit has already told you about the all types of checklist used for various study designs. So you can be thorough with the checklist, and then you can decide whether the study article is following the checklist properly or not. Then check the referencing style also and the citations given. You may have to cross verify sometimes whether the citation whatever is been quoted there is it appropriate or not, and the referencing style whatever you are using that is correct or not. And also remember do's and don'ts for the reviewers. These are the guidelines checklist which are used for the study design, which has already been taken in detail by Dr. Supre. Then coming to the do's, what a reviewers should be doing when they are reviewing the article. When you read the article thoroughly, completely right from the abstract title, abstract, and the whole manuscript as well as the references, you summarize the article first in a short paragraph. So, summarization of the article will help you in identifying any problems are there in the manuscript or not. Then state your main impression of the article, whether it is novel, whether it is interesting, it is sufficient, it gives sufficient impact, or it is adding to the knowledge of the existing literature or not. If any of such components are missing, you can just put a remark on that. So this is what is the first impression, main impression of the article, whether it is novel and interesting and it is giving a good good knowledge to the existing literature. Then you start commenting on the each component starting from the title, abstract, and introduction till the references. And whatever comments you are putting, you can put these comments as page number and line number, or you can put these comments using the comments in the word format. These comments should be very short in words, and it should be clearly defined statements, and which will be helping in understanding the exact what you would like to transfer your knowledge or your what you want to transfer your comment on the to the editor and author. So it should be clearly defined sentence. Then assess your whether the article adopts to the journal specific interest or not. So you should be very aware that whether the article is adopting the journal's interest and it is helping the guide. It is the as per the guidelines given in the journal article. So at the on the website. So you should be commenting on that whether and it is also within the scope of the journal or not. Then give specific comments and suggestions, like if you feel that title is not precise or title is not reflecting the content or it is appropriate, whatever is the comment, you can put and give the suggestion also. If the abstract is not completed, whether it is structured or unstructured, certain journals need structured abstract, certain is not needing. So you should be knowing this journal, IP journal, what that journal is accepting as abstract. So it is a structured abstract or not, it is complete and it is standalone or not. That should be commenting. Then check the writing of the abstracts and its highlights, whether it is mentioned or not properly. Then go to the one by one criteria, like already critical appraisal part has been discussed by Dr. Suprit, and she has mentioned what should be there in the introduction till the references. So you should be commenting very strictly on factual and don't speculate on the motive of the authors. You should be understanding what exactly the author would like to convey the message, and you should be commenting strictly on that basis itself. Then carefully review the methodology, statistical errors, results, discussion, conclusion, references, everything you should be carefully review and comment each on each page, or wherever you feel that there is a problem, you can comment accordingly, page number, line number, or in the comment box. Then comment on the presentation of data. If you feel that there is a problem in the statistical analysis, that also you can comment on. You can ask also author that why you have used such particular statistical analysis. If you feel any doubt is there, or if you feel that it is not appropriate, you can ask the authors about the same. And then whether the conclusion is appropriate and it is supporting the data or not, that also you should finding out. And if you feel any such things are not there in the conclusion which are representing the data, then you can comment on that also. If you suspect while reading or while going through the whole manuscript, if you suspect that any plagiarism is there, or a research falsification is there, ethical consideration is not followed appropriately, then definitely you can ask the authors in detail about the same. You can ask the author to submit the ethical approval letter, or you can ask plagiarism report also. Or if you feel further analysis of the data, you can ask that also to the author. Also, be aware about the potential bias in the review process. You may think, as a reviewer, as a person, as a physiotherapist, you may think that this methodology is only useful, but the author would like to say something new, which you may not be liking. So that may be unconscious bias, which may negatively impact the study analysis or critical analysis. So you should be very aware about such potential bias, and such bias should not be interfering in your critical review process. Then what a reviewer shouldn't be doing? They should not comment on spelling, grammar, or layout of the article. If you feel that research is very sound, it is very innovative, it gives a very good knowledge to the society, uh, uh, to the physiotherapist, or it is going to create a very good evidences, then you should comment that there is a poor language or the grammar in the manuscript, and you can suggest or you can recommend the editor for the language assistance or language edited. But just on the basis of spelling mistake or grammar or layout problem, you should not reject the article if it is very novel and very sound. Then also you should be remembering that you shouldn't make any admonishing comments on the person. You should not be dismiss any alternative viewpoints or theories that might be conflicting your opinion on a topic. Or you should be very open. You should have a broad thinking that yes, there are many other viewpoints also for the same treatment or for the same analysis. So you should be very open, and you should not just think as per your own uh, point of view and reject the uh, manuscript. Then share the review of or information about the review. You shouldn't do that. You should not share your this review, whatever you have got, with the your colleagues, with your friends, or with anyone else. You should not. You should maintain strictly confidentiality in this, and you shouldn't suggest to include your citations. Maybe you feel that your citation should be increasing by just suggesting that put this citation. But if it is not worthy, not usefulness for that particular article, then include you shouldn't suggest the author to include such citation. But yes, if it is very appropriate, very genuine to include, and your citation, your article is very appropriate over there, you can. But unnecessary, you shouldn't suggest to use your citation to the authors. Then what should be after writing everything? Comment, a final comment is very important, final recommendation. So when you are making a final recommendation, whether it is worth considering that or not, that should be commented. So there are three comments which are mainly mentioned. One is reject. So if you feel that it is not appropriate at all, you can reject, but give the proper reasoning for your rejection. If it is acceptable, without any revision, you can suggest that also. If you feel there is a revision needed, then whether the revision is in the form of major modification or a minor modification, that you can comment, and what kind of modifications or where you feel that certain changes are needed, that you can comment in a very clear and sound knowledge, sound sentences. So this is all about the how to write a review. Thank you so much, and I'm thankful to Dr. Sanjeev Jha and Dr. Ruchi Vaishnav madam, as well as Dr. Suvarna madam, for giving me this opportunity. Now I'm handing over to Dr. Suprit madam for next session.
Uh, Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. So now we'll take up the questions and queries. I request the participants to post their queries in the chat box. So we have received a question regarding that whether the critical appraisal can be done for which study designs. Is it applicable for systematic reviews? Yes, as I've already discussed, it's applicable to, I mean, different checklists are available for different kind of study designs. And when we talk of systematic reviews, the most frequently used checklist is that of the Prisma. So Prisma checklist is most commonly used, and otherwise there are CASP checklists that are also available. Then Amster is another tool that is available, and Moose, that is if particularly you want to do a meta-analysis of observational studies, then there is a Moose checklist that is available for meta-analysis of observational studies. And obviously, for consideration of the bias, we can refer to the Cochrane risk of bias tools, and the other risk of bias tools also available. Then there is another query about how could there be any conflict of interest while reviewing if the manuscript is double blinded. See, we need to understand that conflict of interest is a declaration that is made by the authors of the article. Like for example, if a particular modality is being an RCT on a effect of a particular modality is being conducted, and it is sponsored by a company that is manufacturing that product, so it's likely that the results could be biased. So there needs to be a declaration of potential conflict of interest that this study has been funded by such and such company. So that is a conflict of interest declaration. So double blinding of manuscript is that if we double blinding of a study is of an RCT is that if we are conducting a study, the one who is taking the data and the one who is assigning the subjects to the group, both are blind to the participants of the study. That is double blinding. Whereas conflict of declaration has to be made by the authors. I hope this query is clear. Then there is another question. If I want to analyze clinical data, then how could I or where can I learn about that? So I'll be sharing some personal experiences with this. Like there are lot many videos available on YouTube. They're very useful videos. So if we have SPSS software in our hand, we can use SPSS videos for the same YouTube videos. And we have some great books, like we have Andy Field, and that gives you a comprehensive that's a comprehensive book for statistics, so you can refer to that book as well. Then there is there any checklist available for a narrative view? So for narrative view, you can generally as such for narrative view we don't have a checklist available, but you can always refer to checklist for systematic review, because the journal guideline for writing an article, and there is a Prisma flow diagram, so a journal guideline you can get from there. And for systematic review, wherein you need to assess the risk of bias of the studies, and on Pedro scale again you assess that whether this study can be included or not, you can skip that steps for narrative review. But the basic reporting guideline for writing the review can be referred from the Prisma guidelines also. I think all the questions have been taken up.
Yeah, Dr. Suprit, Dr. Vivek would like to add to
Yes,
the last question. Dr. Vivek, would you like to add if there's a checklist available for the narrative review?
Ma'am, as per what my knowledge is, there is a checklist available for reviewing the narrative review type of studies. It is called SANRA, or it is called, its full form is Scale for Assessment of Narrative Review Articles. So it has been
Yeah.
recently developed, I think 2 or 3 years back, and it has been validated and published also.
Yeah.
So we may be able to use that one.
Right.
thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. So with no further questions, Dr. Suprit, thank you so much for taking up the questions and answering them wholeheartedly and with the explanation. So thank you so much. Before we proceed on to vote of thanks, I would just like to let the participants know that this is a pilot run for the reviewers training, and we'll be coming up with the complete module of the reviewers training in maybe next 2 or 3 months. And I encourage all participants, all researchers to join us, the editorial board, for improving the quality of the articles and hence the citations and hence the indexation of the journal. So without wasting much time, I request Dr. Vivek to take over.
Thank you, Dr. Sumana ma'am. During vote of thanks on behalf of Indian Association of Physiotherapists and the editorial board members, first of all I would like to extend heartfelt thanks to Professor Dr. Suvana Kanveer ma'am, our editor-in-chief, and the driving force to keep us motivated for working so that we can help maintain and improve the quality of PGIP. I would thank my team members, Dr. Supreet Bindra ma'am and Dr. Manisha Rathi ma'am, for their enriching inputs and constant support so that we could make this webinar fruitful. We deeply appreciate constant support from Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Jha sir and Dr. Ruchi Voshne ma'am for their exemplary leadership of IAP. I would extend my sincere gratitude to all the academicians, clinicians, and reviewers, or maybe future reviewers who have joined us today. Your presence reflects that every one of us, we share a commitment for advancing the research and peer review in physiotherapy. And last and most of all, I would share my deep appreciation to Dr. Vinod Kaushik sir from social media team of IIP for his dedicated technical support for this webinar. Thank you all very much for a wonderful session this evening. Thank you.